Let's talk about the biggest losers from Super Wildcard Weekend, whatever you want to call it, really, because I've seen like 20 different names for this weekend. Wildcard Weekend is what I'm used to calling it, so we're just going to call it that. You're going to see two videos of this. We're going to talk about the winners. We're going to talk about the losers. Specifically, this one is the losers. So I say that lightly. I would say the biggest disappointments, or the guys that failed to meet expectations, or the guys that truly, I would say, just disappointed their team overall. I think the best way to start this off is with Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator who has recently been let go by the San Diego Chargers. But actually, no, I'm wrong in that fact. It is the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm still not used to that, and I don't think I'll ever be used to that. I don't think any fan should be used to that, because in my heart, it should always be the San Diego Chargers, and they are the LA Clippers of the NFL. There's no way around it, in my opinion. But to move forward, you have this generational talent. I'm sorry, let's just keep it a buck. Justin Herbert's a generational talent. He makes throws that I think only the 0.3% of the entire NFL can make. I see like Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. And I think it's really that. Like, I love Joe Burrow, but I just see these incredible throws, but it's played, or the game is called as if he has almost a noodle arm. Like, I don't want to say Tua, because Tua's earned my respect this season, but like almost just a Taylor Heineke level arm where it's just real short dink and dunk passes. And the concern with the Chargers, we could talk about this 27-point loss, or the lead was blown. It's not 27-point loss. They had a 27-point lead and they lost it, and they only scored 3 points in the entire second half. That's the story that you need to know. The truth of it is, yes, we have all the focus on Staley. Brandon Staley is a head coach that hasn't implemented a true culture in LA. That's something you have to do as an NFL head coach, especially with a guy as generational as Justin Herbert. And we have two problems with the Chargers. A, I think they made a good move getting rid of the OC. You have to get a more aggressive of a play caller. I think you are throwing away this talent year in and year out, especially before the contract is up. When you get that major contract to Justin Herbert, which is going to happen, it's going to hinder the talent level on your team. And I think the second problem is the overall perception of the talent around the Chargers. We went into the season, I mean, I remember guys were predicting that they're going like 5-2. And the talent with this team is better than the reality of what they actually bring to the table. Mike Williams, injury prone. It's going to happen throughout the season. We saw it with the last week of the season, which, why was he even playing in the first place? We see it with Keenan Allen in and out of the lineups. The offensive line was banged up. Losing a guy like Rashawn Slater was a major loss. Austin Eckler is better of a fantasy running back than he is actually in real life. Now, not to say he's a bad running back, but I think he is perceived to be a better running back than he actually is. He's not a bell cow back. And then, not to mention, the defense had plenty of issues on themselves, and you think that would be the actual focal point of this team and what gets them into the playoffs, because Brandon Staley is a defensive-minded head coach. And you see the masterclass that you can pull off, but it shows how bad the coaching can be when the second half is a collapse that bad. When you're not able to run the ball and actually get clock off of that, you're hindering yourself. It is the same formula that the Patriots came back on the Falcons. It felt the exact same. And as soon as that first touchdown came in for the Jaguars, you really felt like, okay, there's still a little bit of life. Not a lot, but then you get that next stop, and it's like, okay, it's the avalanche. It's one little snowball that rolls down the hill, and it grows, and it builds, and the anxiety grows, and everything just overall just continues to press the minds of these head coaches into a point where it's over. You have lost this playoff game. You're not going to get this back. And I don't think they're going to fire him. But in reality, Joe Lombardi, you have fumbled the bag. And I think the overall Chargers organization is a major loser, this team. Like, this is more than just a loss, in my opinion. I know I spent plenty of time talking about this, but like, I just had a lot on my chest about this team, because they had such high expectations when you bring in a guy like Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, all these, the interior presence with Joseph Day, like all these different things, and yet you still just squeak into the playoffs, and then you show up in this major game and you get upset at home, or no, they were away, but you get upset by a 27-point lead. That just shouldn't happen with great NFL head coaching. So I know I said it was Joe Lombardi, but in reality, it's the overall Chargers organization should share blame on this. And I understand that when you lose a game, you are seen as the loser. And this video is very negative. I apologize. I don't like that to be my only thing in this channel, but there will be a positive video coming up very soon. But It's the way that you lose that makes me feel like you should be on a list like this. The biggest L's of the weekend. Because you watch a team like the Dolphins and you can hang your head high. You watch a team like the Ravens, you can hang your head high because you knew going into it that you could throw the kitchen sink at the other team. And you did, and you saw it succeed, and you were so close. And yes, it's a heartbreaking loss. It's going to sting for the rest of the players. But you also know that you had Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley in that quarterback. Those aren't the biggest losers. That they're in a good direction moving forward. Now, pay Lamar and make sure you keep Tua healthy. That's as simple as that, or bring in Tom Brady. Two things. That out of that weekend for the AFC, those are some of the biggest things that you need to do moving forward. Now, flipping it into the NFC, I think one of the biggest losers, obviously, when we look into this, is what the Bucs organization looks like moving forward. Tom Brady is going to go somewhere else, and he's going to play probably at a high level because he's going to go into a more healthy and more fresh situation. That's the problem when you go all in with these teams, is truly you have this aging roster. And the Buccaneers, when they brought everyone back, it was great. You bring in the full 11 on the other side, and you full 11 on the other. I'm talking more with the offense and the defense. I don't know about the special teams. But you bring in all these guys that were at that Super Bowl. They won. But the problem is time always wins. That's the truth of it. At some point, these guys were going to get aged. And not to mention, I think an underrated loss really was Bruce Arians. I think it got a little bit underblown or not talked about enough when we were going into the preseason, is what is the head coaching situation is like for the Buccaneers. I understand that they bring in the defense coordinator and make him the head coach. He was already being looked at for head coaching opportunities. But truly, Bruce Arians was a perfect fit for what this offense was going to ask for. And I understand the offensive line injuries are heartbreaking. They truly were. But I feel like if you had an offensive-minded head coach like Bruce Arians, I think he could have mitigated some of the run game and some of the issues with the offensive line with a quicker pass game. But I do think that they might have been in the same position that they were against the Cowboys and truly get dominated on Monday Night Football. It's the same result. And I think when you move forward, as the Buccaneers will have to do, it's going to be a tough future because I believe their cap space is just as bad as the Saints. Now, good thing is you're in the NFC South. I think that truly this is one of the most wide open divisions in all of football. So maybe you bring in a couple guys, that Derek Carr, things like that, and you salvage what talent is left on this team, because there's still some really good young pieces here. But you are going to have to be very careful because of the tight money situation, the tight draft capital, and the very, very big question mark at the head coach position and the quarterback room. And for the last overall biggest loser in the NFL right now, specifically from wildcard weekend, officiating. This is not specific to any team, and I'm sure there's some bigger losers when it comes to this. I mean, we can look at the Bengals offensive line. That's like an honorable mention, looking as bad as they did. I mean, I could only imagine what the 49ers would do to that offensive line right now. That they have to correct it. Now, a lot of these teams that you could say won their games but didn't look as pretty, like the 49ers, like the Bills, I would say take a deep breath. You are in this position for a reason, and you were thrown the kitchen sink by teams that were trying to punch up. Now you're on an even playing field going against a really good team. I think that they are going to be just fine, and maybe you needed to be battle tested going into these really difficult matchups against number one seeds and potentially Cinderella teams. I'm looking at you, Jaguars. Let's move forward and understand how terrible roughing the passer calls have been. I'm sick of it. And I understand it's going to be fixed. It's going to most likely be fixed. I put quotations on that just because we say fixed, but it's just another trial run of a season where we get frustrated. And I think this is more just a problem with what the NFL is reluctant to do, and what college football is also reluctant to do, is the acceptance of more technology. I understand we have allowed tablets onto the sidelines, and the technological advances of football has grown so much, specifically in the 2010s, and we haven't even hit the pinnacle of what the 2020s will hit. But I think at some point we have to get the human error to be minimized as much as possible, and it just seems like we are throwing it up in the air and just saying, where are these cards are going to fall, and let's adjust from there, when in reality we could really do a lot more, in my opinion. I mean, there's so many examples of what the innovations of where the ball placement is that could be done for these referees that could honestly help them. And I think there needs to be a growing acceptance of these things. And call me out if I'm wrong, if you want the game to be more traditional, if you're concerned it's going to be taking more time. But like, in all honesty, we just need to be a little bit faster, a little bit smarter, and a little bit better. I watched so many calls this weekend. The Bills and the Dolphins game just took what, we were at 2 p.m. or no, it was the Vikings Giants game, and not to mention Vikings major L on y'all's part. But I'm not gonna call Kirk Cousins out for this, because Kirk Cousins had one bad play in a pinnacle moment. He did not play bad that entire game. That is more on the Vikings defense. I think they're going to be fine moving forward, so I don't think they're one of the biggest losers from this weekend. I truly think that the officiating needs to be better, and I'm not one to complain about it because it didn't affect my team. In all honesty, I'm a Seahawks fan. Heartbreaking loss against 49ers. I'm glad they put up a fight. They're going to be in my winners video, even though they lost. I don't care what you say. But the officiating has to be better overall. That's just the truth of it. And those are the biggest, I think, losers from this weekend. I would say like Joe Lombardi and the Chargers. I would say the officiating, like I just said. And I'm blanking on one. Oh, the Buccaneers franchise moving forward. Just because I just don't see a bright future moving forward, especially in the next 1 to 2 years, unless some drastic moves are changed. I think they probably need to get a new head coach, which is a hot take, I think, in my opinion. But thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.